differences differently. We want to impact the community of Centurion, and we thank you for tuning in today. Today I am Kutlwano Seloane, and I am with my co-host
Andre.
And we want you guys to feel welcome as we are going to be having an exciting conversation today about businesses. Now, mentioning businesses, if you are a business owner watching today, we would like to welcome you to advertise your business on our channel here so that you can get as much awareness as possible. And we have a business directory that is dedicated to you guys so that you are able to display all of your products. Now, that being said, we would also now like to welcome our first guest, Mr. Luca, who is about estate management. Can you kindly just tell us who you are and what you're about, sir?
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Luca Folpini. I'm a holistic financial planner, or I like to think of myself as a wealth planner as well. I work for a company called Kainos Wealth. We are a franchise of Liberty. I'm actually part of a company, there's 3 of us in one. We also have a short-term insurance company and 2 independent brokers that have their own section of the company as well, but I'm part of the wealth team. So what we do is, whether it's individuals or companies, we help you create wealth and then also preserve it. And then a very important part of that is estate planning, and that's what we'll be touching on a lot later today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Fantastic. And then to my right, joining us from the Friday Club, we have Mr. Allan Hammond, founder and former CEO, as well as Mr. Kobus Libbe, heading up the Doornkloof branch, who will be sharing some of their wisdom with us throughout the night. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, gents. Now, can I start with you, Mr. Luca? Can you
Yeah,
tell us about estate planning and what the audience needs to know about it?
Okay, yeah, so estate planning, it's very important. Obviously, when someone unfortunately passes away, that you need to settle the estate. So to start off with, I think the 2 biggest misconceptions about estate planning are that most people think I need to be extremely wealthy in order to actually care about having an estate plan. Or the other far extreme, they'll think, I've got a will, that's all I need to do. Unfortunately, this isn't the truth. Estate planning is about ensuring your final wishes are honored the way you want, protecting your family, and also minimizing any financial strain for your family. One of the biggest gaps we have in the country in terms of finances is estate plans. So about 70% of South Africans don't actually have a valid will in place. So now if you don't even have a valid will, you definitely don't have an estate plan.
Yeah.
Where this creates problems now is you're putting your family and your dependents at significant risk of having massive financial costs, possible legal disputes, and then it's already a challenging situation, and now they're going to be under a lot of stress. We've all lost someone that's close to us in the past, whether it's friends or family, so we understand that the last thing you need now is extra financial stress on you as well. So by having a proper estate plan in place with the different procedures, you can help take all those problems away, or at least reduce them quite a lot.
Yeah.
Luca, if I may, you mentioned something now, having a valid will.
Yes.
I remember earlier you mentioned that currently, I think the figure you said is sitting around the 70% mark
Yes.
of the population that do not have a valid will in place. A piece of paper with some thoughts written down and possibly even a signature doesn't necessarily constitute a valid will.
Yes.
So would I be correct in saying, and maybe elaborate on that a bit for us, you thinking, well, I've got that piece of paper, so in inverted commas, I have a will, does not necessarily mean you have a valid will.
100%, yeah. So how to know you have a valid will? It needs to be in writing, so if it has to be on paper. You can't have any other form of, it can't be a digital document, it has to be a written out one. It has to be signed, but also signed in the presence of 2 witnesses. It can't just be the person whose will it is, and it has to be correctly dated as well. Obviously, if you've done it through a will and trust specialist or bank or something, you know it's legit as well, obviously. But the important part is it has to be signed in the presence of 2 witnesses and correctly dated. It's also important to know that every time you amend a will, or if you did a new one, it will automatically supersede any past will as well. On the front page, it will even say this will supersedes any previous wills under this person's name. That's why the date is very important as well, because obviously your life changes a lot, so you do need to regularly review your will. So you might still have the old one in place. The best thing to do would be probably to shred it once you've got a new one. But as long as the new one has the correct updated date on it, then that's the will that will be followed.
Yeah. All right. Now, Mr. Quivers, can I rope you in and ask you, do you
Sure.
have a valid will in place, and
Yes,
did
I
your
do.
process go
Absolutely,
smoothly?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just checking.
And I'm the only beneficiary.
All right.
No, I do.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so, Mr. Luca, why is it important now that we make sure that we have a valid will?
Yeah, so one of the main things, if you don't have a valid will, if you have no will at all, is your estate will go into what is called interstate. This has got to do with the Interstate Succession Act. So essentially what that means is the government will now take control of your estate, of your assets, all of that. And I think that's something that most people would hopefully want to avoid. And then it's also, there's not a guarantee that everything's going to go according to the way you would have liked. Whereas if you've got a will, it's just guidelines that they follow in order to distribute your wealth around. This is particularly important for a lot of couples today. We do live in a modern world where people are waiting longer to get married, or some people don't want to get married at all. But now in South African law, common law relationships aren't recognized. So now if you don't have an actual marriage contract in place or a marriage certificate of some sort, there's no guarantee that your partner is actually going to get what you've left behind, because the government will now look at who's actually dependent on you. Maybe there's other people. And if you've got minors as well, that becomes a problem as well. The money will go into the Guardian Fund, which is a part of the government as well, and they will determine how to distribute that money as well. So it's not actually up to your wishes. Another point is obviously on that, by having a valid will in place and an estate plan, you are protecting your family. You get to choose how all these things then happen. And I think a big thing that should resonate with a lot of South Africans is actually having a proper estate plan in place will help you minimize costs and taxes. So if you just look at things like estate duty, executor fees, appraiser fees, master's fees, any liabilities that the person who's died has had in place, your assets and liabilities don't disappear when you die. They're still there and everything needs to be accounted for. So if we just look at an example of someone who's got an estate of, let's just say 10 million rand in capital assets, right now I can tell you that the estate duty alone will definitely be over R1 million. Capital gains taxes will probably also be over R1 million. Now if we play with this example and let's say this person was like a property guru, all their money's in property, there's now a R2 million shortfall that needs to be accounted for. So do you want your dependents now to have to go into their own pockets to try to pay that off, or they're now going to have to sell one of these properties that you actually left for them? So that's where your actual estate plan in place, you get it in place so that your dependents aren't left trying to figure out how to cover these shortfalls.
I want to ask this question, Luca, because you mentioned that our lives change.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, as life happens to us all, we go through certain stages, getting married, perhaps having children, perhaps we are in business and there comes a point where one would want to semi-retire or perhaps retire completely. Just touch on some of those pertaining to the will and the entire estate plan. And I mean, you can go into a bit more depth on the various points there, but just how does that influence the initial thought process? If I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'm not sure that I have, as you said, even a will in place. Okay, I now know I should start there, but what should my thought process be? Thinking ahead when I speak to Luca.
100%, yeah. So when it comes to estate planning, your will, financial planning in general, it's a continuous process. Every time a major life event happens, whether that's a new job or a promotion, if you're getting married, if you're getting divorced, having a child, something like that, you do need to update your will and estate plan. Another thing that gets overlooked as well is the type of marriage that you actually have. When you get into a marriage, you need to make sure that's accounted for properly. The different marital regimes will also be taxed differently. And if you look at, so people that are married in community of property, you become one joint estate once that marriage happens. So everything's together. So a disadvantage of that actually can also be if one of the spouses passes away, your joint estate actually becomes frozen. Now this can make accessing the assets that you have quite difficult now if the estate is frozen. And then if you married either with or without the accrual, there's obviously big differences in terms of taxes as well. So it's very, obviously life changes, but when you are getting married, or you're getting your will done, it's very important to sit down with your financial planner, with whoever the legal person is that's doing the will as well, to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Perfect.
All right, and do you have any more advice, especially for someone like me who's young, who doesn't have a major estate in place, of course, but has some assets here and there? What tips would you give to ensure that you have our estates planned and have a will?
Yeah, well, like we said, things change all the time. So as you would get older, we'd go into more detail and do more extra thorough planning as well. But to start off with, it's just getting a will in place. Even if you're young, you think it doesn't actually mean anything, but at least you know what the process is. So now when you do it later on, you know what to expect. And once you've met with someone for the first time, they're very good in explaining how it all works. And then you'll also know in the future, I actually need to speak to him, this has changed, this is what we must do now. So that's always a good start for individuals as well. And like I said, if you're getting married, you must make sure you've got the correct marital regime accounted for. Other tips as well I actually learned this last week. I wasn't aware this was a thing. So if you're an engaged couple, you're doing your marriage contract, you can actually include a clause in the contract that will exclude some of we'll get to a tip later on with life insurance. You can exclude the policies if your children are the beneficiaries, and then it won't be estate dutiable anymore. Whereas if you hadn't done that, you will have to pay estate duty on it. But if you don't do that at the start of your marriage contract, where it's for free, you've now got to go to high court, and then you're looking at like 75,000 rand just to get a little clause put in when it could have been for free at the beginning.
So are you saying that, according to that clause, any life insurance policies of which your children are the beneficiaries would be exempt from estate duty?
Yeah, so I'll touch on life insurance as a whole when it comes to estate planning as well.
Okay.
I think life insurance is a topic a lot of people, they think it's boring or they don't want to talk about it or anything, but it's actually probably your biggest weapon when it comes to tackling estate planning. If we look at the example I spoke about earlier where there was a shortfall of 2 million, let's say you had a life policy in place where you worked out, okay, if I had to pass, my spouse would need 1 million rand over the next 5 years in order to continue sustaining their lifestyle. But if you've got the calculations and you see, okay, there's a 2 million shortfall, you can now get life cover for 3 million, and then that 2 million from that covers that shortfall. Your spouse or your kids don't have to now go into their own pockets or sell off the wealth that they inherited just to cover the debt that's outstanding. And now, with life insurance and policies, there's two ways to, I wouldn't say avoid estate duty, but the first one to not pay it immediately. If your spouse is the sole beneficiary on the policy, or if whatever percentage they are of the lump sum amount for life cover, the estate duty that would have been paid on that rolls over to their estate. So you don't pay it right now when the deceased dies, it'll be when the spouse dies. Then the estate duty on both estates will get paid at once. Whereas if the beneficiaries were the kids, you would have to pay estate duty on that. But then, like I said, if you included that clause, you can exclude all policies like life policies or anything governed by the Long-Term Insurance Act. So that would also be endowment investments as well. It would be not included in the estate. So you don't have to pay that estate duty.
Allan, would you say that what we've heard from Luca here, is that something that you could vouch for in terms of where you've been in your journeys, and is that something that you would agree with?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you're young, you think that the inevitable is never going to happen. And then as you get older, you suddenly realize that it's about time. I started thinking about things like retirement and death and whatever. It's extremely important. And you also never think you're going to get sick. You know, we're all going to live forever and we're never going to get sick. Well, unfortunately, life happens. So that doesn't happen. I was totally healthy till I got to 60, and then all of a sudden I got hit with all kinds of illnesses and ailments and claims. And so it's extremely important, you know, and I learned that from my father. When I was about 18, he grabbed me by the ear and sat me down with his insurance advisor and said, okay, you will now take a pension fund. I said, now how much is that going to be?
But Dad,
it was 150 rand a month. I mean, that was half my salary. So I said, are you crazy? But anyway, I did it, and now, 50, 60 years later, I can just say, well, that was the best advice I ever had in my life.
beautiful. Fantastic.
All right, Mr. Luca, you know, you're speaking of many terms, and I think maybe people may get lost in conversation and translation, you know. So I just want you to explain, which you had said earlier on, a conversation we had, you said dying is expensive, right? So now we want to understand, what are these estate duties that need to be paid? Why are we paying whenever we have an estate that is left behind?
So as we all know, there's no such thing as free lunch. There's always a cost for something. So estate duty is a type of tax, essentially. So even, they always say death and taxes are the two things that you can't avoid. Even when you die, you can't avoid taxes. You still have to pay something. So estate duty, it's also governed by the Estate Duty Act. So that is the tax that you pay on your deceased. But now, the first 3.5 million of your estate is estate duty free. So if your estate is less than that, you're not going to pay any. Up until, I think it's to 30 million, the estate duty is 20% of that value. So if it's 30 million, it's 20% of that. Above that, it now becomes 25% estate duty. Then, in order to do this, you can't just get a random person to help close someone's estate. Actually, a story I can share, I had a client who, they've got a will with me, plan sorted, but they had a parent who died end of last year, who, they had a will which was good, but they had made their daughter the executor of the will of the estate. But now the daughter said to me, well, I'm not a legal person, I don't know even where to start with this. Now you've got to go hire someone to come help you. Because if you're the executor, you're basically the only one legally allowed to actually do something. But now you have to get legal consult to come and help you. So choosing the right person to be the executor is a very important thing as well. If you've got your will with a company that deals with wills and trusts, they have people that will do that and they'll act on your behalf. You can have a family member that will sit with them to do everything. So obviously you do have that trust relationship there. But when it comes to calculating the value of an estate, you need people that do that. And obviously that's their job, they need to be paid. So that's why you have to pay a property appraiser who's going to come say, okay, this is how much the property is actually worth. We're not going to just take your word for it that it's worth 4 million, but then on the market it's only 1 million. So you need that guy to come there. Obviously a lot of stuff's done in court, so the master, he gets paid for doing this as well. There's all these little costs everywhere that just pop up.
And tell me, Luca, in terms, I think you've spoken of the initial or the starting point of the plan, being will, you've touched on life insurance, you've mentioned trusts. I don't think we're going to go into too much depth regarding that tonight. I think if people need to speak to you with regards to that, they're welcome to contact you, because I don't think that's for everybody. But then, let's say one now has moved on in your life, perhaps you're getting closer to the point in your life where you're starting to think of retirement, or shall I say enjoying your retirement, which, listening to you, I realize that enjoying your retirement begins way back at planning for retirement. Otherwise, there won't be anything to enjoy. But for this instance, let's argue that you have made provision, you have planned properly. What now happens when you get to that point of, it is now time for me to retire, I have made provision, I'm looking forward to my retirement, perhaps a retirement fund or an annuity or whatever it might be. In your opinion, what are some of the better routes to take when it comes to that side of life?
So obviously it does come down to the individual as well. There's not a one thing that will work for everyone, but the general thing is, like Allan said, when his father told him he must invest, so you will have that would have been a personal retirement annuity for him. Hopefully, if you have an employer, if you don't have your own business, you work for a company that has a pension fund as well. The two of those will go a long way, especially if you start younger. The younger you start, the better. There's a term in investing called the cost of delay, where it's just, even by waiting 5 years, you're going to have to almost quadruple your contributions to catch up. So the earlier you start, the better. Then obviously when you get to that retirement age, you've got many different options. There's 2 different products you can look at. There's living and life annuity. So obviously how it usually works with the pension or your retirement annuity, you can take your 1/3 in cash. With the Provident Fund, you used to be able to take the full thing, but they've changed that rule now. It's now also only 1/3. And then you'll choose what you want to do, or some people have a combination of both. A life annuity, the insurance company will guarantee you an income for the rest of your life while you're alive. You, though, can't choose where you invest the money. It's not essentially not being invested. The money that was in your retirement annuity or your pension that you've now given to them, depending on what the life annuity rates are at the time, they will give you a guaranteed income until you die. Whereas with the living annuity, you've got all the control. You can invest it in different portfolios, you can choose your drawdown rates, which is between 2.5% or 17.5%. Obviously you need to determine how long you think you're going to live from it. So if you're retired at 65, you've almost got to plan for at least 25 years to the age of 90, or maybe even longer. And then that determines what your drawdown rate should be. You'll be able to work out if we're investing in a fund which we think, okay, we can get 8% on, but if you draw down too much, you're going to run out of money. So that's where the risk is on you. With the life annuity, the risk is obviously on the insurer, because they have to give you the money, and because it's a legal contract, they do have to. They can't just say, sorry, there's no more money, you'll get a guaranteed one. It might just be less than what you could have got if you went for the living annuity, but then there you run the risk of running out of money. And I think if we go back to the estate planning, an important thing with retirement funds, any retirement fund in general, they're not estate dutiable. But then where this can be a problem as well is that because they're governed by the Pensions Fund Act, they are the trustees of that fund will determine what happens to the funds when you pass away. You nominate beneficiaries, which is a guideline, but the trustees have to do their own background research just to make sure as well. The reason why they do that is, say there's a family where there's a husband, wife and kids, but one of the parents also had a child somewhere else who maybe is not accounted for in the policy. So the trustees need to do that research, because obviously that child's also entitled to receive some compensation. So for that reason, from an estate planning point of view, it can be difficult to get immediate access to the funds. But those are sort of the general options you have. There's also different ways that you can strategically invest the money, where you'll get different rebates from SARS, whether you've invested it in income or in equities, but that's obviously down to the individual as well.
And then tell us, again, Allan mentioned it now, that he was healthy up until 60, and then all kinds of ailments and illnesses and things pitched up. Again, in your opinion, at what point in one's life does the need for cover with regards to ailments and illnesses become more important, and how should one address that, and from what stage within this planning cycle should one focus more specifically on that?
Well, once again, the younger you get the cover, the better it is as well, because the way that insurance will determine what your premium is, they look at different rating factors. One will be your gender, because males and females have different risks as well. One of the biggest ones is actually your age. Theoretically, the younger you are, the less susceptible you are to getting these ailments. They look at your education background, what qualifications you have, whether you smoke or don't smoke, that affects what your premium is. So the younger you start, you're going to get a better rate. That, even though it increases over time, it'll be similar to how medical aids work with the late joining penalty. It's the same concept basically. So the younger you are, obviously the better. And even if you just start off young, where you've got a very small amounts of cover, because maybe if you don't have any dependents, you don't necessarily need something like life cover. If you don't have a spouse or children, if you don't have a big estate, there's probably not going to be a shortfall anyway. So you might not necessarily need that, but you can start off with something like critical illness cover, disability cover, because if something happens to you now, you still need an income. Your daily living still goes on, even if you can't go into work. But if you can't earn a salary, then you can't pay for your normal expenses plus any added expenses that you've now got from the ailment.
Okay. Allan, if I may turn to yourselves and even Kobus, again, with what it is that you guys are doing with the Friday Club, and please share with our viewers a bit more of what it is that you do, how the Friday Club came about, what the vision was, what the dream was, and what's been happening ever since. And if you will, tell us, I know that you guys are dealing specifically with entrepreneurs and businessmen and women, and perhaps you can also share one or two stories with us where people have come to you and knocked on your door and said, well, I haven't done some of what we've heard here tonight, shared by Mr. Folpini, and share with us from that point of view what the consequences was.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. We have a business club called Friday Club, which is basically a networking club. And some 30 odd years ago, I realized that business people don't talk to each other and they don't communicate. So I tried to figure out a forum that we could put together where a group of business people could get together in a room and share ideas, share opportunities, share challenges that they face in their business. And so we kicked off, actually, I saw a TV program on speed dating, and I looked at that and I thought, yeah, that's a damn good idea. Instead of speed dating, why don't we do speed businessing? So I got hold of a couple of colleagues and I said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sit around the table. You're going to have a couple of minutes to tell me about your business. I'm going to have a couple of minutes to tell you about my business. So I'm not looking for a date, but I'm looking to do business with you. And so we started that on a Friday morning, and it turned out to be quite popular. We suddenly went from 5 people to 50 people, and everybody said, well, we should formalize this. Let's make it a business club. And the names were bandied around, and I said, but we meet every Friday, so why don't we just call it Friday Club? So that's how Friday Club was born. And the whole idea is to create a forum where business people can get together. We do it on a weekly basis, every Friday morning, and share ideas, collaborate, share opportunities, do business, pass referrals, and actually it's a very good just backup system, because it can be lonely out there in the business world, especially if you're a small business owner, and especially if you just started in business, and all kinds of things happen, and life happens, and business happens. So it's good to get together on a Friday morning, and then you suddenly realize, but hold on, there's other business people that have the same challenges as me, and 2 heads are always better than one, and that's the whole concept. So the whole concept is, at that point in time, I didn't even have the word networking in my mind. And networking suddenly came to the fore. We thought this is a good idea. We'll call it networking. We'll call it Friday Club Business Network. And we'll meet every week and we'll discuss business and pass referrals and help each other. And I discovered over the years that actually it's a great way of getting new business. You know, things have changed. In the old days, we used to take an advert in the Scope magazine, and they had stars in a strategic place. And what was the other one? Fair Lady or something? Oh my goodness. And I think even in those days, Huisgenoot was still around. But that all kind of, when all this new digital TikTok stuff and Facebook and everything and digital marketing and social media marketing came to the fore, everybody kind of moved in that direction. And yes, of course, you have to be in that space because your competitors are, but we kind of lost that personal contact. And I don't know, I know I'm old-fashioned, I know I'm old, but I like the personal contact. And I like to meet the person I'm doing business with. So for me, it's just amazing to be able to get together on a Friday morning and meet some friends, colleagues, business. Your business partners become your friends and your colleagues. And we pass business to each other. And you know, networking works for you when you're not actually there. You going about your daily business, and on a Sunday morning somebody's sitting at home having a braai, and then someone else says, you know what, I'm having such a problem with this computer. It takes about half an hour to boot up. Hey, but we have someone in our club that can help you with that. Do you mind if I give him your number? And that's how business, millions of rands worth of business gets passed like that on a very informal basis, just by being there. And of course, one of the rules of networking is to be there. As I said earlier, it's called networking, not netkeer. You have to be there, you have to do some work, you have to, build. It's all about building relationships. My grandmother used to say, look after the pennies, the pounds look after themselves. I say, look after the relationships, the business will look after itself. So networking, the bottom line is all about building relationships. It's not about sales, it's about building relationships. You build the relationships, the sales happen. And you got to make sure you're there, you got to make sure you're top of mind. And it's exciting and it's fun. And we get guest speakers in, and everybody has an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then we get some feedback on what's happened for the week of business that's been done. And it's just so warming when millions of rands worth of business has been done. We've had instances where someone has come along for 2 or 3 Fridays and met somebody there and got introduced to somebody else, and that somebody else introduced them to someone else, and they'll end up doing a 14 million rand furniture deal. That was quite amazing. And we're busy at the moment. One of our members is busy doing a 700 million rand franchise deal. So, I've been
networking.
Yes, all to do with networking. But of course you've got to be there. If you're not there, someone else is going to do the business. And I have 3 rules of sales. Rule 1, see the people. Rule 2, see some more people. Rule 3, refer to Rule 1. And then I get asked the question, okay, but how do you see the people? Well, you come to Friday Club. You can sit in a room on a Friday morning for an hour and a half and build relationships with 40 business people. How amazing is that?
Now that is truly powerful. Now, Mr. Kubas, I'd like you to explain to maybe a businessman that is sitting at home to understand the importance of coming to these Friday Club events and what you have seen with running it.
Yes, it's extremely important, and I'm passionate about the Friday Club. I've seen it work, even in my own business. It is a great opportunity, like Allan has said, to meet like-minded people. And like I mentioned to you earlier, you don't have to have a business to visit the Friday Club. A lot of young people specifically, they don't know what to do with their lives. Do they want to work for a company, or do they want to start their own business? And the learning ground is actually at the Friday Club. So just be there and you will learn. And you will make in the end a decision. Do you want to work for yourself, or do you want to work for someone else? And I can say the best decision is to work for yourself. It's tough. It's not easy. It's a challenge. But your time is your own. And that is a freedom that you will never ever have by working for someone else. And I decided to join the Friday Club about 2 years ago. I became very involved, and the Friday Club is really a venue to be. So we've grown from 1 club to 2 to 3. We now have 5 clubs in Sandton, Pretoria East, Eco Park, Montana, and Doringkloof in Littleton. And we're opening a new club in Benoni soon, or the East. And definitely one early in 2025 in Cape Town. So it's expanding. And also the Friday Club as a concept is different to other business networks in the sense that we are far more relaxed with less rules. We're not as strict. There are less limitations. So it's easy to join. We will never show either a visitor or a member away. And it's a perfect place to be.
Sure. It's powerful.
You know, I have 3 rules of networking, which I call the 3 ups. It's get up, dress up, and show up.
Yeah.
And somebody the other day added 2 of those. They said, follow up. I said, yes, that's important. And shut up. Well, you know, one of the things with sales is, that's why you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that you can listen more than you talk.
Yeah.
Yes, and build those relationships is the most important thing. And how do you build relationships? Be there and be at other events, and wherever there's gatherings, make sure you're there. And don't be scared to talk to people. It's the easiest thing in the world to walk up to a total stranger and say, hi, I'm Allan, and what business are you in? And then that starts the conversation going. And never try and sell at one of these networking events. You're there to build relationships. So of course, what I do is I collect their business cards or their phone numbers, and I land up with 10 or 12 people I've never met before, but I have their number. And the next day, the easiest appointment you ever made in your life, I phone the person and say, hey, Quibus, how are you doing? I was at the meeting yesterday. I didn't have a chance to chat to you, but I would like to find out more about your business. How about we have coffee tomorrow? Betty, if it's a nice lady. And, you know, if it's Quibus, he must pay for the coffee. If it's a lady, I'll pay for the coffee. The whole idea is to find out about each other's business. I can't refer clients to you if I don't understand your business.
Yes.
And what people don't understand about networking meetings is that you're at a meeting with 30 or 40 other like-minded business people. The idea is not to sell to them. The idea is to educate them on your business. Because actually, if you boil it down, the bottom line is you have 40 salespeople sitting in the room with you. And all you need to do is to educate them on how your business works and what you do and what your main focus is, so that when they're out there talking to their clients and somebody says, I need a whatever, say, yes, I know somebody that can help you with that. And that's when networking works for you. When networking doesn't work for you is when you come once, then you disappear, then I phone and say, hey, what happened to you? I didn't do any business. Yeah, but you were there once. What was your expectation? You can expect people to fall over you with million-rand deals. People do business with people they know and they trust. And how do they get to know and trust you? Be there. Get up, dress up, and show up. And build those relationships.
Yeah.
We can see that you live by those 3 ups.
Yes.
You got up, you dressed up, you showed up. Well done, sir.
Yes. It's very frustrating for me when I can see the potential and I see the business that's being passed, and then people say, no, this doesn't work for me. No, it's not this that's not working. It's you that's not working. Did you just come for the breakfast? Or did you come to network, to build relationships, to educate people, and more importantly, to find out about other people's business? I make an appointment, I don't even mention what I do. I don't mention any of my companies. I don't mention any. I say, I want to find out more about your business. Let's have coffee tomorrow. And then when you have coffee, you talk about their business. Don't spend an hour talking about how fantastic you are. The second easiest appointment you ever made in your life is when you have an appointment with somebody, even if you think you can't do business with them, but who do they know? So that's even more important. So I would say at the end of the meeting, I'd get to know the person, find out about their business, realize, okay, there's no way I'm going to do business with this person at this stage, maybe later. But who does he know? So I would ask this question. Please do me a favor. I'm trying to expand my business in this area. Who do you know I can speak to? So if that person gives you 3 or 4 names, and you have 5 or 6 appointments in the week, you suddenly got 20 people to phone. And you phone and say, I got your number from Kobus. He suggested we have a chat. I would like to find out more about your business. Let's have coffee tomorrow. Do you see the common thread there?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What an easier point. And I mean, it's all about seeing people. Rule 3 referred to rule 1. See the people. The more people you see, the more chance. You know, I used to do training for some of the larger companies, corporates, and then people would say, no, this doesn't work for me. In the insurance business, no, this doesn't work for me. I'm seeing the people, but I'm not doing business. But let me see your diary. So if you look at the diary for the week, they've had 5 appointments. Then I get the diary of one of the top agents in the country, and I say, okay, now can you see the difference? You've had 5 appointments this week. Look at this guy, Roots. He's had 5 appointments a day for the week. So he's had 25 appointments. And you know what? The easiest thing in the world is to have a business plan. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And if you wake up on a Monday morning and you don't know where you're going, you're like a ship without a rudder. If you have a plan, and I have a simple business strategy, see 3 people every day. If you put that as your business plan, it doesn't have to be a 47-page thing. Just see 3 people every day. That's 15 for the week, 60 for the month, 700 for the year. Thank you very much. I could do with 700 new clients every year. Imagine what that could do for your business.
No, that is so good. Mr. Luca, how about you also add your insights in this conversation? As we know with the insurance industry, you have to be networking, you have to be meeting people. How have you seen networking working in your life?
100%, yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that Allan said. My managers at work would have loved to have heard what you had to say as well now. But yeah, like Allan said as well, if you go to these networking events, there's maybe another 40 people there. But it's not only those 40 people, as we discussed earlier, all those 40 people know at least 10 other people that they're very close to. So then it's technically 400 people that you could get in touch with somehow. And yeah, it's very important with what I do. I would say networking and prospecting is the heartbeat of my business. If I'm not seeing people, then I'm not getting any money, basically. That's how it works. And that's how it is for most people, that if you have your own business or something like that. And I think even if you look at all of us here today, the reason we're all in this room is we met at a networking event. So if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be here as well.
True.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Kobus, I want to maybe end off with you in terms of this. And I can hear that you guys are passionate about the Friday Club and what it brings to the table, and the testimonies that has been shared even tonight has inspired me. But maybe, and TK touched on it earlier, from your own experience, because I know that you and Allan are walking a pretty close road together, and just share some of the golden nuggets that has really transformed your life, your business, the way you look at things, the way you approach things.
Well, in the beginning, I tried, and I made that mistake. I tried to sell my alkaline water business within the Friday Club. And I did achieve limited success. But when I stopped selling at these direct events like the Friday Club, and I focused on the networking, then my business became more sustainable. I get so many referrals and leads from that and outside of the Friday Club. So this person will speak to that person, and that person will speak to that person. Then suddenly I get this phone call or WhatsApp message from a stranger and says, "Oh, I heard you sell alkaline water." And that is where it starts. So in the end, I make an appointment, I see them if I can. It's not always easy because everyone is busy. I try to meet everyone. Most of my contacts within my network either end up at the Friday Club or another networking event, so I have the opportunity to meet them in person and speak to them. And then they just place their orders with me, and there it goes. I can use an example. Someone that is a Friday Club member contacted me and said, "Listen, this is my sister's number. They urgently need good quality water. They're not Friday Club members." Contacted them, and they placed quite a big order with me, and they should be placing another order soon, especially with the heat. So I always follow up. I have a list of my customers, and when I see, because I know water consumption from normal consumers very well, I will estimate and say, I will call Allan and say, "Allan, how's your water stock looking?" He says, "No, I've got enough." Then 2 days later, he will say, "Listen, I need some water."
I drank more than I expected.
Yeah, there's so many factors when someone tells you I've got enough water stock, that like the heat or there's a medical condition and then they drink more water, whatever the case might be. So it's unpredictable, but you as the business owner, you must be ready. You need to jump for that opportunity, and the best way to continue your business and make it sustainable is to create repetitive business. In other words, a customer that are happy with your product, happy with your service, and they come back again and again and again.
And I can tell you something. Kobus's water tastes very good with a tot of whiskey.
There we go. Fantastic. Luca, perhaps if you want to share any final thoughts with us, and thank you. I think some of what you've shared was particularly insightful. Some of it obviously the general public are aware of. I'm not saying they always apply it in the way they should, but I do think that you certainly touched on some of the points that perhaps were not so well known to the general public, and I thank you for that. I think you are in a privileged position in the sense that you are able to literally take people by the hand and guide them through the process in order to get them to the desired destination at a time in their lives when that's probably the last thing they want to be thinking of. So thank you for that, and thank you for taking up that responsibility. Share with us any final thoughts that you might have, please.
Yeah, thank you for that. Very kind words. And also thanks for having me on here. It was a very good experience. I would look forward to possibly doing it again in the future as well. We can talk about something else. But yeah, I think like you just said, walking the road with someone when it comes to financial planning, estate planning, business planning, it's a relationship with, it's never just you, there always has to be someone else involved. We spoke earlier about how the people that just work on their business, if they're just at home, they're often quite lonely, because you always need relationships in order to make your business work. And if we go back to the estate planning, like I said, it's not just about getting your wealth transferred to someone. It's about protecting your family, your loved ones, making sure that they're financially stable and leaving a legacy. That's what everyone wants to do when it is their time to pass on. They want to leave a legacy for their loved ones.
No, that is great. Now, can you quickly just tell us where the viewers can get a hold of you, and so that they can get this process started for those that are interested?
Yeah, 100%. So my details will be on the We Are Centurion directory as well. That is something that I'm in the process of doing. I'm not sure our details going to be in the video. If we can maybe put that in at a later stage, that would be a good idea. Otherwise, you can find me on LinkedIn. I've got a profile there. My name is Luca Folpini. I'm the only Luca Folpini in South Africa. I can guarantee you that. So if you search that name, you will find me there. Then all my contact details will be there as well. And even on the actual thumbnail for the video, it was my business card that was used, so my details should be there as well.
Fantastic. I just want to say that listening to you, I'm reminded of something that I have always tried to bring about in my own life, and that is that my kids should start their lives on my shoulders, which sounds very noble. And then there came a day that I realized that yes, that's true, but the responsibility of the height of my shoulders, or for the height of my shoulders, lies with me. And I think based on what you've shared, it's an opportunity for fathers, mothers, parents to raise the level of their shoulders so that their next generation can start at a better place.
100%.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, if you will, any final thoughts from your side? Thank you.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity again. And I hope someone listening got some little nugget of inspiration to get out there and the rule number 3 of sales. And yes, we're very passionate about sales, about relationships, and our details are on the We Are Centurions directory. You can find us there, all the details, and you're welcome to contact us. We meet every Friday. Closest here is at the Centurion Theatre. Every Friday, 8 for 8:30. You're welcome to get our details, just RSVP, because we have a breakfast, so we need to do catering. Otherwise, you're going to arrive and not have breakfast. And yes, thank you so much. Can I leave you with this last thought?
Please do.
If at first you don't succeed, skydiving's not for you.
No, thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. We really do appreciate you guys for your time and for sharing to the viewers. And to the viewers of We Are Centurion TV, we would kindly like to ask you guys to please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are enjoying these conversations, so that you may see our live streams every single day, Monday to Thursday. And please do give us a like so that we can keep producing this content and knowing that it is benefiting you. And lastly, please do remember that we do advertise businesses here, and we would like to give also a great appreciation to Hirsch, which has given us coffee to basically sponsor these conversations so that we can keep flowing and give you guys great content. So if you are a business person there seated wanting to advertise your business here, please do come in contact with us or go to the We Are Centurion TV website so that you can put your business details down below. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow evening, same time, same place, and have a lovely evening further.